Alright, let's settle in. What if I told you that in just 1 week, 7 short days, you could initiate a change so profound, it would feel like you've been handed a new map for navigating life? Not some fleeting trick, not a hollow promise, but a genuine recalibration of your inner world. I know it sounds almost too good to be true. I was there, wrestling with the same anxieties, the same feeling of being adrift, the same sense that there had to be more to life than the daily grind and the constant chase. Then I stumbled upon something ancient, something powerful, something that has been the bedrock for some of history's wisest souls, Stoic philosophy. And by integrating 5 specific habits, born from these timeless lessons, my life didn't just shift, it transformed. The fog began to lift, clarity emerged, and a sense of calm purpose settled where chaos once reigned. And the most incredible part, the initial impact was noticeable within that very first week. So if you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or just yearning for a deeper connection to your own existence, lean in. Because what I'm about to share isn't just a list, it's an invitation to a more resilient, meaningful, and liberated way of being. These aren't just habits, they are keys, and the last one I'm going to share, well, that's the one that truly anchors everything. You absolutely want to stay for that. Let's begin. The first habit, the one that set the tone for everything else, was embracing the morning with intentional stillness. Before this, my mornings were a blur. Alarm, phone, rush, coffee, chaos. I was reacting to the day before it even truly began, already behind, already feeling the pressure. My mind would be a whirlwind of to-do lists, worries from yesterday, anxieties about tomorrow. It was a recipe for a fractured, stressful existence. I felt like a ship without a rudder, tossed about by the whims of external demands and my own untamed thoughts. There was a constant low hum of dissatisfaction, a feeling that I wasn't in control, that life was happening to me. Then I decided to claim the first few moments of my day, not with more doing, but with being. Inspired by the Stoic practice of preparing for the day ahead, of reviewing one's principles, I carved out just 15 to 20 minutes. No phone, no emails, no news. Just me, the quiet of the early morning, and a simple journal. The practice was twofold. First, a brief reflection. What am I grateful for right now in this moment? It could be as simple as the warmth of the cup in my hands, the quiet of the house, the fact that I woke up. This wasn't about grand pronouncements, but about cultivating an appreciation for the present, a key Stoic understanding that much of our suffering comes from wanting what we don't have or fearing what might happen rather than valuing what is. Second, and crucially, I would set my intention for the day. This wasn't about creating a rigid to-do list, but about deciding how I wanted to show up. What virtues did I want to embody? Patience, understanding, courage. I'd think about the challenges I might face, a difficult conversation, a demanding task, and I would mentally rehearse approaching them with a Stoic mindset, focusing on my actions and responses, not the outcomes I couldn't fully control. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively in his meditations about starting the day by reminding himself of the kind of people he would encounter and the virtues he would need to employ. This became my modern version of that. The immediate change within that first week was astonishing. Instead of waking up into a state of alarm, I woke up into a space of calm. That small window of quiet reflection acted like an anchor. My mind, instead of being a chaotic storm, felt more like a calm lake. I was less reactive throughout the day. When challenges arose, I found myself recalling my morning intention, almost like a mental compass guiding me back to my chosen principles. The feeling of being overwhelmed began to recede, replaced by a quiet confidence that I could handle what the day brought, not because I could control everything, but because I could control my responses. This wasn't about adding more to my plate. It was about creating space, about starting the day grounded, centered, and purposeful. It was the difference between being thrown into the deep end and consciously stepping into the water prepared. This simple act of claiming my mornings became the bedrock upon which other changes could be built. It gave me the mental clarity and emotional stability to even consider, let alone implement, the habits that followed. The second habit, and this one truly began to dismantle years of accumulated stress, was diligently practicing the dichotomy of control. Now this sounds philosophical, and it is, but its practical application is profoundly simple and life-altering. For so long, I was caught in a web of worry about things I had absolutely no power over. The weather, other people's opinions, traffic, the global economy, past mistakes, future uncertainties. My mind would chew on these relentlessly. It was exhausting. It was like trying to steer a hurricane with a teaspoon. I would invest so much emotional energy into outcomes that were, frankly, none of my business in terms of my ability to dictate them. This led to immense frustration, anxiety, and a persistent feeling of powerlessness. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, offered a beacon of light here. He taught that some things are up to us and others are not. What's up to us? Our thoughts, our judgments, our desires, our actions, our responses. What's not up to us? Pretty much everything else. Our bodies in terms of illness or aging, though we can influence health. Our possessions, they can be lost or broken. Our reputation, it depends on others' perceptions, external events. The habit became a constant, conscious filtering process. Whenever I felt a surge of anxiety, frustration, or anger, I would pause and ask myself, is this thing that's upsetting me within my complete control, partially in my control, or completely outside of my control? If it was completely outside my control, say, a flight delay or someone else's bad mood, I practiced actively letting it go. This wasn't easy at first. My mind wanted to wrestle with it, to fix it, to understand it, to blame someone for it. But I would gently remind myself, this is external. My peace does not need to be disturbed by this. I visualized placing that worry outside a circle of my influence. If it was partially in my control, like preparing for a presentation, I can control my preparation, but not how it's received, or a difficult conversation. I can control my words and tone, but not the other person's reaction. I would identify the specific actions that were up to me and focus all my energy there. I'd do my absolute best with my part, and then I'd consciously release the outcome. The impact within the first week was like a heavy backpack being lifted off my shoulders. Suddenly, vast swaths of my mental landscape that were previously occupied by fruitless worry became free. I had more mental energy, more emotional bandwidth. When a colleague was unexpectedly critical, instead of spiraling into self-doubt or anger about their opinion outside my control, I'd focus on whether there was any truth in the criticism. I could learn from my interpretation, my learning within my control, and how I would respond constructively, my actions within my control. This wasn't about becoming passive or indifferent. It was the opposite. It was about channeling my energy with surgical precision towards what I could influence. It's an incredibly empowering shift. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming an active agent in your own life, focusing your efforts where they can actually make a difference. The stress didn't vanish entirely, of course, but its nature changed. It was no longer the gnawing, pervasive anxiety about the uncontrollable, but rather the focused effort of doing my best with what was mine to do. This habit alone, if practiced consistently, can revolutionize your experience of daily life, freeing you from so much self-inflicted suffering. Now, the first two habits, claiming your morning and practicing the dichotomy of control, lay a powerful foundation. They create space, clarity, and a sense of agency. But what if I told you the next one could turn even your biggest frustrations, your deepest pains, into your greatest teachers, into something you could not just tolerate, but perhaps even embrace? Stick around, because this next concept is a game changer for resilience and deep, abiding peace. It sounds counterintuitive, almost radical, but its effects are profound. The third habit, and this one took courage to truly embrace, was cultivating amor fati, learning to love your fate. This is perhaps one of the most challenging yet rewarding Stoic concepts. Amor fati, a Latin phrase championed by Nietzsche, but deeply resonant with Stoic thought, means love of fate. It doesn't mean a passive resignation to whatever happens. It means actively, even joyfully, accepting everything that has happened, is happening, and will happen in your life. The good, the bad, the ugly, as not just necessary, but as something to be welcomed. Before I encountered this idea, my relationship with adversity was one of resistance. When something went wrong, a project failed, a relationship ended, an unexpected illness struck, my immediate reaction was to fight it, to lament it, to ask, why me? I would expend enormous energy wishing things were different, replaying past events, imagining alternative scenarios where the painful thing didn't happen. This resistance, I came to realize, was the primary source of my suffering, far more than the event itself. It was like being caught in quicksand. The more I struggled against what was, the deeper I sank into misery. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, taught that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. They understood that we don't control external events, but we do control our response to them. Amr Fati takes this a step further. It's not just about enduring or tolerating, it's about finding value, even beauty, in the entirety of your experience. The habit began with small steps. When minor irritations occurred, a traffic jam, a spilled coffee, a piece of tech malfunctioning, instead of my usual sigh and internal complaint, I try to say internally, this is part of it. This is what is. And that's okay. What can I learn, or how can I adapt? It felt artificial at first, almost like lying to myself, but I persisted. Then I started applying it to bigger things. A career setback that felt devastating at the time, instead of just seeing it as a failure, I began to look for the lessons, the redirection it offered. Perhaps that path wasn't right for me. Perhaps this failure was clearing the way for something more aligned. When reflecting on past hurts, instead of dwelling on the pain, I asked, how did this shape me? What strength did I develop because of this? What did I learn about myself, about resilience, about compassion? The shift within that first week of consciously practicing this, even imperfectly, was noticeable. It wasn't that negative emotions disappeared, but my relationship with them changed. Instead of being consumed by them, I could observe them with a little more detachment. There was a dawning realization that every event, no matter how unwelcome it seemed at the time, could be a teacher, a catalyst for growth, a necessary part of the unique tapestry of my life. Imagine a fire. You can curse it for its destructive potential, or you can see it as a force that forges steel, that clears away old undergrowth to make way for new life. Amr Fati is about seeing the forging, the clearing, the potential for new growth in everything. It's about saying yes to life in its entirety. This doesn't mean you don't strive to improve things or work towards better outcomes. You still apply the dichotomy of control act where you can. But for everything else, for the unchangeable past, for the unpredictable present, for the uncertain future, you embrace it. This habit fosters an incredible sense of peace. The constant battle against reality subsides. You start to see your life not as a series of unfortunate events to be overcome, but as a rich, complex journey where even the difficult parts contribute to the whole. It's a radical acceptance that transforms suffering into strength and resentment into a profound, almost sacred appreciation for the unfolding of your unique destiny. It's the ultimate alchemy of the soul. The fourth habit that began to weave itself into the fabric of my days, bringing an unexpected vividness and urgency to my life, was practicing memento mori, remembering you will die. Now, this might sound morbid, even depressing. In our modern culture, we tend to shy away from the topic of mortality. We push it to the peripheries of our awareness, treating it as something to be dealt with only when absolutely necessary. But for the Stoics and for me, it became a powerful tool for living more fully, more virtuously, and with greater appreciation. Before actively engaging with this concept, I, like many, lived with a vague, unexamined sense of endless time. This led to procrastination, to taking things for granted, to investing energy in trivialities, and to postponing what truly mattered: deep connections, meaningful work, personal growth. I was often caught up in the minutiae of daily anxieties, losing sight of the bigger picture, of the precious, finite nature of my existence. Memento mori, Latin for remember you will die, is not about dwelling on death in a fearful way. Instead, it's a reminder to live. Seneca famously wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." The awareness of our mortality serves as a powerful clarifier, stripping away the non-essential and focusing our attention on what truly holds value. The habit manifested in subtle but consistent ways. I didn't need to build a coffin or visit graveyards daily, though some historical Stoics might have had more dramatic practices. For me, it began with a simple daily acknowledgement. Often during my morning reflection, I would briefly contemplate the finite nature of life. Not in a way that induced panic, but in a way that sharpened my focus for the day ahead. What is truly important today? If this were one of my last days, how would I want to spend it? Who would I want to connect with? What words would I want to say? What actions would I want to take? This mental exercise, even for a few moments, had a startling effect within the first week. Procrastination on important tasks lessened. Why put off something meaningful if time is not guaranteed? Petty grievances and minor annoyances began to shrink in significance. When faced with an interpersonal conflict, the thought, "Life is short, is this really worth the energy?" often brought a swifter path to resolution or forgiveness. My appreciation for small moments intensified. A beautiful sunset, a good conversation, the taste of a simple meal, these things took on a richer hue when viewed through the lens of impermanence. It wasn't about a desperate clinging to life, but a deeper savoring of it. It also spurred me to think about my legacy, not in terms of fame or fortune, but in terms of the impact I was having on others, the kindness I was showing, the principles I was living by. The awareness of mortality isn't a wet blanket, it's a spotlight. It illuminates what is essential and burns away the trivial. It compels you to ask the hard questions. Am I living in alignment with my values? Am I making the most of the time I have? Am I contributing something positive to the world, however small? This practice helped me to cut through the noise of modern life, the endless distractions, the pursuit of superficial goals. It reoriented me towards purpose, towards connection, towards living with intention and courage. It fostered a sense of urgency, not of panic, but a calm, focused urgency to live well, to love well, and to act with integrity. It's a profound paradox. By remembering death, you learn to truly live. It made me more present, more grateful, and ultimately, more alive than I had ever been. It's a stark reminder, yes, but one that carries with it an incredible gift, the gift of perspective. We've journeyed through claiming our mornings, mastering our sphere of control, embracing our fate, and living with the poignant awareness of our mortality. Each of these habits builds upon the last, creating a powerful synergy for inner transformation. But the final habit, this is the one that truly ties it all together, the one that elevates your existence beyond the self and into a realm of profound, enduring fulfillment. And trust me, you need to hear this last one, because it's where the Stoic path culminates, where true meaning and a life well lived find their ultimate expression. It's the capstone. The fifth habit, the one that brought all the others into a cohesive, meaningful whole, was actively practicing virtue and sympathy and living for others and the common good. Stoicism, at its heart, is not a philosophy of detached, navel-gazing. It's a deeply practical and social philosophy. The Stoics believed that humans are rational and social creatures by nature, and that our ultimate good, our eudaimonia or flourishing, is found in living a life of virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, and in recognizing our interconnectedness with all of humanity, a concept they called sympatheia, or affinity with the cosmos and our fellow beings. Before consciously cultivating this habit, my focus, while perhaps not entirely selfish, was certainly self-centered. My goals were primarily about my success, my comfort, my problems, my happiness. Even my efforts at self-improvement were largely aimed at making my life better. There's nothing inherently wrong with that starting point, but it's incomplete. I found that even when I achieved personal goals, there was often a lingering sense of something missing, a subtle emptiness. The shift came when I began to understand that true fulfillment isn't just about alleviating my own suffering or achieving my own peace. It's about extending that outward. It's about using my strengths, my skills, my compassion, however limited they may seem, in service of others and the common good. Marcus Aurelius frequently wrote about his duties to humanity, seeing himself as a citizen of the world. The habit of practicing virtue and sympatheia isn't about grand, heroic gestures, though it can include them. It's about the daily, often small, opportunities to act with kindness, fairness, courage, and moderation, and to recognize our shared humanity. In that first week of focusing on this, I started looking for these opportunities. It meant truly listening to someone without just waiting for my turn to speak. It meant offering help without expecting anything in return. It meant choosing the honest and fair path in a business dealing, even if it was slightly less profitable. It meant having the courage to speak up for someone who was being treated unjustly, or simply offering a word of encouragement to someone who seemed down. It meant making a conscious effort to be patient with someone frustrating, remembering that they too are struggling with their own burdens, just as I am. This wasn't about becoming a martyr or neglecting my own needs. The Stoics understood the importance of self-care, as you cannot pour from an empty cup. But it was about reorienting my perspective. My individual well-being became intertwined with the well-being of the community around me. The impact was profound and almost immediate. That lingering emptiness began to fill with a sense of purpose that was larger than myself. There's a deep, quiet joy that comes from contributing, from connecting, from acting in accordance with your highest values, not just for your own sake, but for the sake of others. It shifted my focus from what can I get to what can I give. When I applied the other habits, morning intention, dichotomy of control, amor fati, memento mori, through the lens of this fifth habit, they took on even greater significance. My morning intention might include a resolve to be more patient and understanding with my family or colleagues. The dichotomy of control helped me focus my energy on how I could contribute positively, rather than worrying about whether my efforts would be perfectly received or solve all the world's problems. Amor fati helped me accept the imperfections in others and in society, while still striving to make things better in my own small way. Memento mori reminded me that my time to make a positive impact is finite, urging me to act with kindness and purpose now. This fifth habit is where the rubber truly meets the road. It's the outward expression of all the inner work. It transforms Stoicism from a personal survival toolkit into a philosophy for a noble and meaningful life. It's the understanding that we are all leaves on the same tree, as Seneca put it, or limbs of the same body, as Marcus Aurelius described. Our flourishing is interconnected. Within that first week, small acts of kindness, of service, of principled action began to generate a positive feedback loop. Not only did it often make a difference to others, but it also brought an unparalleled sense of peace and fulfillment to me. It was the realization that the deepest and most enduring happiness comes not from what we accumulate for ourselves, but from what we contribute to the collective. This is the lesson that truly anchored everything, the capstone that completed the arch of a transformed life. It turned self-improvement into something far richer, a journey towards becoming a better human being for myself and for the world around me. So there you have it. 5 habits rooted in ancient Stoic wisdom that began to radically reshape my experience of life within a single week. Embracing the morning with intentional stillness to ground and center myself. Diligently practicing the dichotomy of control to reclaim my energy and peace. Cultivating amor fati to find strength and acceptance in all of life's circumstances. Practicing memento mori to live with urgency, clarity, and appreciation. And finally, the one that ties it all together, actively practicing virtue and sympatheia to find profound meaning in serving the common good. These aren't magic spells. They require conscious effort, patience, and a willingness to look inward. But the beauty of them is their accessibility. You don't need anything external to begin. You can start today, right now, with the very next thought, the very next action. I won't pretend it's always easy. There are days I falter, days old patterns try to reassert themselves. But armed with these principles, these habits, I have a roadmap. I have tools to navigate the complexities of life with greater resilience, greater peace, and a far deeper sense of purpose than I ever thought possible. The change I experienced in that first week was just the beginning. It was like the first rays of dawn after a long night. As these habits became more ingrained, the light grew brighter, illuminating a path towards a life not free from challenges, but rich in meaning, guided by wisdom, and anchored in an unshakable inner calm. If you're feeling that call, that yearning for something more, I urge you, don't just passively consume this information. Pick one, just one habit. Perhaps it's dedicating 10 minutes tomorrow morning to stillness and intention. Or maybe it's consciously practicing the dichotomy of control when you feel that first wave of anxiety. Commit to it for 1 week. Observe the shifts, however small. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Let these habits be your first, conscious steps towards a life of profound meaning and tranquility. The wisdom of the Stoics has endured for millennia for a reason, because it works. It worked for emperors and slaves, and it can work for you. The power to change your life isn't out there somewhere. It's within you, waiting to be cultivated. Start today. And if this resonated, share it with someone who might need to hear it too. The ripple effect of one small change can be immense. Thank you for joining me on this path.